Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, "Press on," has solved and will always solve the problems of the human race. Calvin Coolidge.
Welcome to the Blank Canvas project created by Plinko Solutions. My name is Jonathan McLemore. I'm a solutions consultant based out of Toronto, Ontario. Spent the past, 2.5 years building with AI, figuring out how to make it useful for people. And that's now, in the last 7 months, taken the shape of a 9-to-9 startup called Plinko Solutions that offers AI specifically to build out your sales infrastructure as a business, handling everything across the board from lead gen, lead enrichment, getting to know who you're talking to, building out your marketing funnels, full marketing systems, which you'll see actively in play here. A whole bundle more of fun stuff, which I'm really excited to kind of showcase. For years, I've looked towards how to document what I do, share it over, without getting lost, essentially, in the noise of it. I spent a long time really meditating on quality and being a bit of a perfectionist. And I'm now here committing to this blank canvas project where daily I'll be using basically this full YouTube system that I've built out that allows me to document and create and kind of broadcast with an 80-20 piece of it. It'll be really fun. So I'll be posting material, content you'd call it, that's actually useful, full of utility, just value packed, pretty much every day. Gonna do 3 times a week, like an actual episodic, like full blown, as you would with the YouTube stuff. And then this kind of project here will showcase more of my process throughout that. So basically what I'm doing is daily going forward. I've got this good old Pomodoro timer, gift from my brother, that allows me basically to set down a 50-minute timer. And my goal is to record, handle all the AI, like audio editing side of things, the storage management, and if I would like, video repurposing using Opus Pro, Opus Clips, or whatever else. And basically in 50 minutes, post every day. So if I can do that an hour a day for the next however long I can, chances are the quality of these things aren't going to be the highest production. Like you'll see now, the lighting is kind of ish. There's so many things I can improve here, and I'm tempted to, delegate and push off until I got it all perfect. But I like to believe what we've got right now is sort of the 80-20, like I mentioned, on the quality. So my hope is that, as you tune in for these will become more and more, call it richer in terms of material, actual. There's a fire truck going on in the background. That's one of the caveats with this. So off the bat, you'll notice that this specific project has a bit of a choppy editing style. Because it's the 80-20 approach, I'm very much like within these hour frames, recording, editing, posting, all within that shot. So I'll of course have more time to commit going forward with the bigger projects, which is why I'm even starting this to begin with. Gracefully, I can say I'm actually, a founder of a profitable business, which is insane because last year I was laid off 4 times, within 1 year, and I broke my leg at the end of it, which, I can give a full sob story on. But the biggest takeaway from that is I need to build my own oxygen tank. And if I don't do that, my trust issues endlessly with other managers and bosses will just continue to grow. So with that, the mission behind Plinko Solutions was, over the years, I've worked with a lot of amazing talent that has been bottlenecked by, for lack of a better word, terrible management, terrible, organization, I would say. Overwhelmed, a lot of good, hardworking people working 12-hour days, building someone else's ship, managing other people's problems, and they just they don't have the systems in play for themselves to kind of help, even just health do better. Reason being is they never had the time or the focus. When I say focus, I mean like the actual vision towards creating those systems to improve for themselves. You don't have the time to meditate. You're running around, you're juggling things, and a large part of the mission and what I do is bridging accessibility, like being able to relay ideas that are actually engaging to people, storytell meaningfully, and trust that the power of doing so will actually help people. So in doing that, I've done a lot to run workshops with people, make sure that there's a proof of concept before I ever charge anybody a penny. I do my best to kind of not preach ethics, but practice it, I guess, in the sense. I come from a background of entrepreneurship, which is kind of what got me into sales in the first place. I did technical recruitment as a career path. Once I graduated with good old English and from TMU, Ryerson in Toronto. I look down the route of the academic and somebody who can thoughtfully engage and put together this kind of narrative or rhetoric that people can follow and actually make sense of, right? When I speak about rhetoric, I'm speaking specifically about the argument of self, the narrative of self, and pretty much how they present that in what they do, how they live, right? And for a lot of people, that's work, that's vocation. They're putting in extensive hours, doing a lot of data entry, doing a lot of mundane stuff. And they're like, well, all this AI stuff, that's got to help somebody, right? That's got to be, is it going to replace my job? Is that going to actually, how can I use that? Isn't it just another search engine? That project just kind of led me down this concept of microservices, which I'll dive into in the coming episodes. That's what you call these, which is basically the speed in which you can build software and infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, I'm speaking about systems that work for you while you're not, putting your man hours behind it. It's achieving a task. It's getting things done. And the goal in becoming capable of building these things is not for displacement. It's not to put people out of work, but to put the people that are in work in better positions where they can balance, right? And they can have more leverage for their output, because that's how you reward genius, is you give them more capacity to do genius stuff. You know what I mean? So that's led me down this mission. What does that look like? So I'll share it here. So Plinko Solutions is essentially a project focused on AI and automation. Now, for those unfamiliar with pretty much how automation and AI related, think about it like this. Even if you're not a tech person, you can kind of wrap your head around this. Speed and efficiency is often what we trade for, right? Even when we're hiring certain people, the talent trade, call it arbitrage, is the difference of how much better, how much faster, how much stronger is this, next resource. Being able to return time where it matters most only makes sense to people when you show it to them, right? So a lot of that has kind of taken place in the world of software. Automation and scripting has kind of been the old approach to this, but now with the recent rise of the citizen developer, which is someone who can build with no code, not the vibe coding, Reddit, crazy headlines, but for the people that actually can build something that is end to end, actually useful for people. For example, a fitness project that will allow a personal trainer and allow them to generate nutritional plans and fitness plans based on their frameworks and their principles. There was a 30K project done for that. Not my own, I wish, but one project that I did do that was actually a decent high ticket with this was really focused on pretty much the operational side of this. So I mentioned my background in real estate. At least I think I did in one of these takes. If not, I have a real estate license. My aim with that in the practice is to actually improve the existing practice, right? Right now, we have a lot of overwhelmed people, a lot of overwhelmed realtors, brokerages, and really just, not even just real estate, but service-based businesses, plumbing, HVAC, salons, wellness, spas. Like these are all places where people are just sweating, and the sales side of that, often new leads, new actual business for them is what affects the bottom line. So what I do is actually conducting a full audit that allows me basically to see what can we automate and what is worth systemizing. So as a consultant, that's my framework. I come from a background of digital marketing. So when I approach things, I'm looking at it all in the different components and different assembly lines, if you will, and just seeing what makes sense to build. So again, production value, this entire website I'm actually going to be redoing live over the next 30 to 60 days, brick a day kind of style. So you guys get to see the growth of this over time. What's really cool about this kind of approach is before I even charged a penny, before I even pushed for the B2B market, for, I want to say, more than half a year, I just focused on B2C, which is, to consumer. I mentioned that fitness project. I've done a number of those. Teaching people how to train GPTs and create their own AI agents, and being able to build task management systems and scheduling and content stuff. Like, for example, there's a bad look with the air that's just lingering there, but storage management, which basically allows me to move storage pretty much efficiently. It's like right here, as I'm recording, I'm hitting stop recording. It auto deposits in here. What happens is it runs through this automation that pulls those files from the desktop. This is self-hosted, NAN, by the way, and basically runs it through an audio engineer loop, which is Ophonic. Really cool project. Cool platform, to be honest. And from there, I'll be able to review it in YouTube, pretty much in the one shot, and upload. In terms of content and material, I mentioned a lot about my consulting background. Design thinking. I'll tap to the main screen for this one. I have over 11 actual written notebooks since 2017 of frameworks, workshops, principles, ways to grow businesses. And my aim is to bring it all to you very much in a digestible, simple format. A lot of that requires me to whiteboard. It requires me to, they say the danger of a man with a marker and a whiteboard. At times it's going to look disorganized. And I also want to share that part of the experience here is really zeroing in as a founder on what is going to give me the highest leverage per unit of time, right? In the same way, when I'm working with marketing agencies and personal brand builders, sales directors, right? One big client of mine works at one of the biggest tax firms in Denver, Colorado. I should also mention I mainly work with US clients, which is really cool. So being able to be kind of a digital nomad in a sense. I know I'm jumping around a few places, but the numbers, what really helps for people is, contextualizing it. I mentioned I've been doing this for a number of time, like for months, years. Only as of, I want to say, once I broke my leg at the end of November 2024, did I register a sole proprietor and actually start charging people. Before that, it was just personal projects, hobbies, all the fun stuff while I was working. Doing this 9 to 9 now, I've been able to really get a pulse on what do people really need. So part of this blank canvas project, I'll be showing you guys what the market looks like. So I'll be going on Upwork, doing demos live. I'll be doing audits as well, showcasing that, sharing how that kind of looks. I'll be doing some sort of tutorial work, kind of like explaining, what is AI and automation. My main target is not those that are looking to start a business like this, because again, I'm not here to sell a course. I'm not here to sell any sort of educational stuff. I'm purely here to implement and to showcase what is actually possible. I believe there's a huge market here, especially with small businesses or anyone below the 1 million revenue mark for a year. Those are the ones where they often wait and they say, hey, we don't need systems now. We'll wait until we can afford the 10K retainer. We'll wait until we can afford those big companies. that will actually help us. But for now, we'll just kind of bootstrap. And I've worked with that's my portfolio. Those are my guys, because being able to contemplate what systems actually work for them requires somebody to come in and deploy that very quickly in a sort of demo fashion. So, for example, that tax firm I worked with, the sales director managed a team of four teams with 14 agents across those four teams. And he was looking at ways to like add in efficiencies, add in, demands. And he found that sales reps were, to schedule their follow-ups, they would open a new tab and create it individually. I slapped the mic, I'm sorry. Create it individually into the Google Calendar and then go back. And that context switching, they were able to do like, between 400 to 600 calls across the team within a day. I came in and I was like, hey, what if you just add a column feature, right? Within their existing Monday.com CRM, that when they check that column or put a date in there, it will automatically pull their email, go over to, make.com, which I'll showcase, and run it through this kind of scheduler spine that figures out the time zone, the start time, the length, all that jazz, which is, used to be a very difficult scripting problem. And then it would just automatically send the invite. Implemented that. Fast forward 2 months, they're doing between 800 to 900 calls a day across the team. Revenue starting to go increase. So things like that, where I'm like, how can I find these 2 to 4 hour jobs, sometimes even 15 hours, 20-hour jobs, that when you build it, deploy it quickly, it impacts the bottom line. That is where I bring in design thinking. So design thinking, without getting too deep into it, is essentially a way of productization and wrapping your head around the offer that you're giving the market. It requires, in terms of the copy and the marketing, to balance kind of these two train tracks that are running together. Again, 80-20 on this. There's many more intellects that can dive deeper with this. But essentially, by anchoring the problem, anchoring the thing, the time sink, the fatigue, the if it's a scheduling fatigue, if it's a sending a request for a proposal, which is basically a little contract, a little package that says, hey, here's what we do, here's how much we charge, this is what we're up to, here's what we can do for you, that kind of stuff. The time sink in outreach, right? When you're trying to reach out to people, the problem you're anchoring is you don't know what to say, you don't know who to talk to. So if we frame that as something that we can then actually build and solve, we then have something like a Cluely that's, which here I'll just open up and share with you, that is basically, trained on your problem and is able to kind of understand what's going on the screen and recommend things to happen. There's a little assistant system prompt that I have, but something you just hit 2 hotkeys and it can tell me what I need to say. That current product is being used for all sorts of different stuff. Not this though. So there's another project I'd like to share here. So I know I've thrown a lot here, but blank canvas is one. That's Plinko Solutions. That's part of what we're doing. Another project is called the eyes and hands of the web. So this one is a little bit more dramatic, right? And it takes into account essentially this novel approach of using proper anchoring and problem solving within the industry to actually improve the operational side of the business. So I'll show you a quick example. Again, very, very early stages, but this is essentially lifetime how I'm using AI and automation to help people. And that's the bottom line of a well-working business, is actually helping people. So eyes and hands of the web. This here is for a recruitment partner out of Salesforce, a good friend of mine. The way it works, really, really quickly, is he provides a job site, and he's like, trying to study the company. And there's a few different things I can do with it. In this current scenario, what I'm doing is checking to see if more than 3 jobs were posted in the last 7 days, indicating some sort of hiring urge or hiring surge, that kind of thing. And the way I do that is using a tool called AirTop AI. So AirTop AI, I will disclose, I became an affiliate with these guys very early on. They're basically a competitor to ChatGPT Operator. They're one of those like browser use agents essentially, but this one's a bit different because it's not using browser use. They proprietary business, $350 million funded, built a browser agent that handles scraping. So very similar to Appify and other sites that also scrape. This one has a 5,000 free credit. Basically allows you to use a browser agent to browse the web, pull information, figure out things in the back end. So an example of that here is creating a session, virtualizing essentially as you would with Docker if you're familiar with that, but doing it on the cloud here. Creates a new window, goes ahead, clicks through, using natural language, mind you. And instead of pulling all of the code, all of the HTML and the CSS stuff on the website, it goes and it just queries to figure out, using either Puppeteer of its own way, but figuring out what's on the page and being like, all right, so what is each job card saying? We then kill the session, run that mess through a unstructured JSON assembly, which kind of repackages it, bundles it up, cleans it up. Some of this, not necessary, but essentially cleans it all up, throws it into a presentation layer that he can now access, and then feed it into Cluely. So then he would go reach out to the company and be like, hey, basically a quick little demo of this project, the eyes and hands of the web. It's taking a system prompt on Cluely, which is currently a 2-3 month old software, $15 a month. You got unlimited, free, you get 15 responses free for a day. The company is mainly pushing this for marketing automations, but I'm looking at it more so as a sales co-pilot. And when it comes to outreach and lead infrastructure, how to really give this life and shape. So, really show you it. Here's kind of the output from that scenario with AirTop. And basically what's happening is it's generating this subject and body, and this is on one point of personalization. There's like 12 that we can do. But the idea is it's doing something called concatenating, which is like mixing together, kind of like a bunch of ingredients for cake. Once we do that, we essentially now have something that we can feed in and get a freshly, let me just shift this to the left, freshly cooked up outreach message. Now, a lot more layers of personalization, and this will be market ready. So the idea is to put this tool behind Plinko Solutions.homes and the full real estate offer. What's funny is they just kind of came out. Again, there's so many domains and so many use cases for it, but I've basically pulled the lever on these, and I'm actively looking to build these out because, yeah, it's just one of those things where having basically the back end automation, scraping and finding resources for you, and then the front end just being a simple, on-screen LLM that has all the information that you need, really allows you to cook up something really useful. So they just came out with this feature that lets you save it inside of the actual tool. I've been doing this pretty much. Really funny, as I, for whatever reason, had a hotkey binded to spacebar that would just shut down the recording. And I realized that's been hindering me in this process. So day one, learning live. But basically, as I was saying, there's an uncountable amount of different use cases in different places in this domain where I could, where I put my screen again, where I can essentially implement this, right? So right now I just have 3 that I'm actively deploying in the market, but I have a number of them that essentially pull signals from the internet as a human would, right? So it runs scraping, it runs the automation on the back end to find these footprints and essentially bring that signal to the forefront, and then using Cluely as the UI, the front end, present that, right? So packaging this, putting a full offer behind it is going to be really exciting. I've been, like I mentioned, pulling the lever on this for God knows how long. They just came out with this feature that allows you to save it in the actual system. But regardless, that's what we're working on. Welcome to the blank canvas. really excited to kind of pave the path and showcase more of the madness behind all of this. Cheers. I'll see you guys tomorrow.